If you grew up with Gen X parents, you might remember something strange about childhood. There was one sentence you rarely heard: "I'm proud of you." Not because your parents didn't care, and not because they didn't love you, but because in that generation, pride was usually shown, not spoken. Ask people who grew up in the 1970s or 1980s what their parents were like, and you'll often hear something similar. Their parents weren't absent, they worked hard, they paid the bills, they kept the household running. Dinner was on the table, lights stayed on, life moved forward, but emotional praise, that was rare. You might get a nod, maybe a short good job, sometimes nothing at all, and strangely, that silence became normal. Picture a Saturday afternoon in 1984, a dusty little league field in a quiet suburban town. Kids in oversized uniforms run across the infield. Parents stand behind a chain-link fence. Some talk to each other, some watch quietly. One boy finally connects. With the ball, a clean hit. It flies past second base. His teammates cheer. The crowd claps. He looks toward the sideline. His father is standing there, arms crossed, watching. He doesn't shout. He doesn't celebrate. He just gives a small nod, maybe a half smile. After the game, walking back to the car, his father says only 2 words: "Good hit." And somehow, that meant everything. Moments like that were common, quiet, almost invisible, but powerful. You might remember standing in the driveway trying to fix your bicycle chain, your hands covered in grease, the chain keeps slipping off. Your father watches from the garage. He doesn't rush over, he lets you struggle. After a minute he says, "Flip the bike over." You try again, and suddenly the chain clicks back into place. He nods once, then he goes back inside. That was the lesson, not praise, just quiet approval. Maybe it happened with a school project. You built something from cardboard, a bridge, a volcano, a solar system, with tiny painted planets. You place it on the kitchen table. Your father studies it. He taps one piece with his finger and says, "That'll hold." Then he walks away. No long speech. But somehow that simple sentence felt important. Another moment many Gen X kids remember is the report card. You walk into the kitchen, backpack still on your shoulder, holding the envelope, straight A's. You hand it to your mother. She studies it quietly. Then she nods. She walks to the refrigerator and places it there with a magnet. That's it. No celebration, no cheering, just a magnet and a nod. But every time you opened the fridge, you saw it there, and you knew it mattered. Of course not every moment was success. Sometimes you failed, missed the shot, failed the test, lost the game. You expected anger or disappointment. But often the response was simple. Try again next time. Or sometimes just silence. Not because they didn't care, but because they believed you could figure it out. To understand Gen X parents, you have to look at the generations before them. Many were raised by baby boomers or the silent generation. Generations shaped by war, by economic hardship, by long work days, and by a belief that emotion should stay controlled. In those homes, love wasn't expressed through words. It was expressed through responsibility, through sacrifice, through showing up every day and doing what had to be done. So when Gen X parents raised their children, they carried that same language forward. Not because they didn't care, but because it was the language they knew. Instead of words, they showed pride through actions. Driving you to practice after a long day at work, standing in the rain watching your game, helping with a science project late at night, fixing your bike so you could ride again the next day, working overtime so you could go on a school trip. They might not have said, "I'm proud of you," but they were there, and in that generation being there meant everything. But here's something interesting. Most Gen X parents never heard those words either. Not from their own parents, not growing up. They came home to the same silence, the same nods, the same quiet approval, and when they became parents themselves, something complicated happened. Part of them wanted to say it. "I'm proud of you. You did well. I love you." But the words felt strange, almost foreign, like trying to speak a language you understood but had never learned to speak out loud. So some of them said it, quietly at first, carefully, like they were testing something new, and others stayed with what they knew. The nod, the presence, the quiet approval. Not because they were cold, but because love, for them, had always been a language without words. There was also another belief shaping Gen X parenting, a belief that confidence had to be built, not handed out. Many parents believed too much praise could weaken kids. So instead of constant encouragement, they gave their children something else: responsibility, independence, freedom, and that freedom showed up everywhere. You rode your bike miles from home. No phone, no GPS, no way for your parents to track you. Just one rule: be home when the streetlights came on. You spent hours outside, building ramps, exploring woods, inventing games, sometimes getting into trouble, but always figuring things out on your own. If something broke, you tried to fix it. If you got lost, you found your way back. If you failed, you tried again. And slowly, without realizing it, that built something powerful. Confidence. Not loud confidence, but quiet confidence. The kind that doesn't need applause. Ironically, that silence created something important. Gen X kids learned to look inward for validation. They became independent, self-driven, resilient. Because growing up, they learned something simple. You didn't always need someone to say they were proud. Sometimes you could feel it in the quiet moments. A nod, a handshake, a small smile. That upbringing left something else behind too. Something many Gen X adults still carry today. A strange discomfort with compliments. Someone tells them they did a great job, and something inside them deflects it. It was nothing. Anyone could have done it. I just got lucky. Because growing up, praise wasn't something you expected. So receiving it as an adult still feels unfamiliar. Many Gen X adults also carry a quiet internal pressure. A voice that says you have to keep proving it. Not to others, to yourself. Because external validation was never reliable growing up. So they learned to generate it internally, to set their own standards, judge their own work, push themselves without waiting for someone to tell them they were ready. That's both the gift and the cost of growing up without applause. Today, many Gen X adults have changed that pattern with their own children. They say the words more often. I'm proud of you. I love you. They celebrate. Victories a little louder. Encourage more openly. But deep down, they still understand the quiet language their parents spoke. Because even if the words were rare, the message was always there. And if you grew up with Gen X parents, you probably remember at least one moment when they didn't say they were proud of you, but you saw it, in the way they watched you, in the way they nodded, in the way they showed up again and again throughout your childhood. And somehow, you knew.